the delusions. My goodness. We're going to take a closer look at Don Lemon and, well, his sense of vindication. I don't know. But in a recent display of remarkable self-assurant narcissism, Don Lemon, the former anchor, and then I guess demoted co-anchor of CNN, I think his last gig was that morning show. Anyway, he's taken time to reflect back on his recent CNN exit, which happened back in April, and taking the time for an interview, actually, with Kara Swisher on the podcast called Pivot. Now, Lemon exhibited a level of self-awareness that he might have described himself as impressive, if only, of course, he wasn't so divorced from reality. Let's see if we can actually disabuse him of his delusions, or maybe not. Anyway, here we go. So, to quickly reset here and set some context as well, Don Lemon was shunted out of the door after multiple embarrassing revelations provided no other option to his former employer, CNN. Instead of accepting responsibility for the events that he was involved in at the time that was available, and of course a lot of stuff behind the scenes, he took with him a, very pointed grudge that was directed at those running his former employer's news business, of which he was a very highly paid professional, somebody who should have known how to communicate and do that pretty well, right? All right, so let's get to the meat of the story because there's a lot here. In this podcast interview, Lemon's version of events suggests that CNN was evolving its strategy, which I think they've said out loud. I mean, I don't think that anybody didn't know that they were trying to get back to the middle, but hey, we'll keep going. So in that shift of content direction, they had no choice, according to him, to bid him farewell, to force him out the door. According to Lemon, he simply didn't fit into the new narrative that CNN was starting to carve out. Not sure if that's entirely true. It would have just meant that he would have to be a news person, but we'll continue. What's interesting is his exact words, and I'm going to quote, "I was not a part of that. They did not want me to be a part of that." Okay, did they tell you that? Or was that just a sense that you got? Was it a feeling? Are you going to report a fact? Ever? Of course, this is a classic case of the network suddenly veering in a different direction and leaving behind a distraught anchor who just happened to be unaware of the change, even though all of us knew about it. I was aware that CNN wanted to pivot back to centrist news about, 2 months prior to the Reverse Morris Trust spinoff of Warner Brothers from AT&T. I'm sure he knew, right? I'm sure you were aware. Most others at the network were aware, and they acted accordingly. But not the super smart news guy. That's very strange. Of course, it didn't stop there. Lemon went on to claim that he wasn't watching, or hasn't watched, CNN since his departure, which I can actually believe. Of course, why would he? I mean, it's not like keeping tabs on that very network that once employed you would, inform you as to what you were missing. Those changes that it would be undergoing could offer you some insight into why you were dismissed in the first place, what you need to improve on for a new employer, etc., etc. But apparently, Lemon has no interest in seeing something he isn't involved in, okay, or could inform him what he was lacking. Yes. Not that he's leaving anybody wondering if he's taking the phrase ignorance is bliss a tad too seriously. I think that he's just, like most, a narcissist. Now, Lemon's logic fails to grasp that news should be a neutral endeavor, and therefore he didn't understand why CNN would want to be centrist in its reporting. Despite his claims in this interview, news isn't something that you shape or mold. It's just something that is. And looking back at his most recent career, he regularly pulled information from thin air or repeated unverified rumor, yet he's still actually suggesting that he reported facts. Okay. But perhaps the most intriguing piece of Lemon's narrative here, Lemon, I don't know how you say it. Anyway, his narrative is his proclamation of feeling vindicated. That's right, vindicated after Chris Licht's exit from CNN. The guy that they brought in to kind of fix the network. Yeah, vindicated. And for context here, Licht was the former head of CNN. He'd left amidst his own controversies and apologies for his behavior towards staff, very similar to the reason that, Lemon left. Of course, for Licht, it was because of a massive hit piece where they kind of did, some work in the background to get rid of him. Lemon just did it to himself. It's quite a leap for Lemon to feel vindicated, though, due to Licht's departure, as their situations, obviously, are not even remotely related. One can only marvel at Lemon's ability to tie completely unrelated events into a satisfying tale of personal exoneration. As for his comments about Nikki Haley, if you remember those, Lemon brushes them off as innocent mistakes that anybody could make. After all, who among us hasn't made questionable remarks that they wish they could rephrase? Now, while I agree with his main statement here, I would suggest that after stacking those mistakes up like cordwood, one would certainly see the consequences in, well, starting a fire, or that one may start regardless, eventually. Naturally, in Lemon's world, anchors are just like, well, us, except that they're on national television, scrutinized by millions, of course, and their words have actual consequences. And that's really just the way that they want them. But in the grand tradition of selective memory, Lemon reminisces about his almost 17 years at CNN. And that's a long storied career, right? Almost great career. Except for the inconvenient detail of his abrupt departure, which, again, he really does not want to talk about. He heaps praise upon Jeff Zucker, though, suggesting that if anyone can save CNN, it's, I guess his name's Zucker. I always mispronounce it. Sorry, guy. Whatever. Whether Zucker is actually interested in taking over CNN or, ending up buying them or whatever is being suggested here, that's another question entirely. But Lemon's unwavering faith in his former boss is truly something to behold. Again, considering that the reason Zucker is no longer there or was shoved out the door, well, was for the very same kinds of bad behaviors, including a long-term relationship with somebody in the office that is his subordinate that, well, quite questionable. Peas in a pod, I guess, though. By the end of the interview, of course, Don Lemon's narrative is a masterclass in self-delusion. He paints himself as a victim, of course, an innocent bystander in a grand network overhaul. He dismisses his own controversial statements as mere blunders and sees vindication where none exists. Yet, for all the sarcasm and disbelief that his narrative might evoke, especially for me, it's a reminder of the power of self-narratives and the lengths to which some people will go to protect their ego. I would suggest that Lemon's tale should serve as a cautionary one for all of us, a reminder to stay grounded in reality and to be willing to accept responsibility for, well, all of our actions and our shortcomings and our failures, rather than crafting intricate narratives that shield us from the uncomfortable truth. Regardless, that truly is the only way to learn and to grow. Regardless, the tale of Don ends here for me, but not for you. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Is Don capable of gaining self-awareness and realizing his fault? Will he ever find himself at the heights he once attained? And of course, do you think he'll ever find a way to report just the facts in the future? Let me know your thoughts down below. I would really appreciate it. It's going to be kind of a spicy conversation, I expect, since everybody loves CNN, right? And with that, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, see ya!